For a lot of trauma survivors, entrepreneurship isn't a passion project. It's an exit strategy. And when your business is your only way out, the urgency to move fast can become just as dysregulating as the workplace you left. Did you know that trauma impacts how we navigate our careers, but most career advice ignores this reality? Imagine feeling confident and safe at work while honoring your healing journey. Welcome to your Trauma Wise Career Guide, the podcast that reimagines career development for trauma survivors. I'm your host, Cyndi Bennett, a trauma survivor turned trauma-informed career coach and founder of the Resilient Career Academy. If you're navigating your career while honoring your healing journey, you are in the right place. Welcome back to your Trauma Wise Career Guide. I'm Cyndi Bennett, your host, and today we're talking about something that is a common challenge for trauma survivors who've made the bold, brave, audacious move to leave their paying job to launch off into entrepreneurship. The tension between the urgency to make your business work and the limitations of your nervous system. Today, we're going to explore why this tension exists, what moving at the pace of your nervous system really means, when urgency becomes the new trigger, and how you build a business that can hold both realities. So let's dive into it. The first thing I want to talk about is your motivation behind entrepreneurship. What were the things that caused you to make that big, bold, brave decision of leaving your day job? Was it your environment? Was there toxic leadership? Was there unpredictable environments? Was there a lack of autonomy? Those are things that can cause you to want to leave the workplace. Perhaps there were difficulties managing your trauma symptoms in the workplace, and there wasn't a choice to work from home. Maybe you were just plain exhausted from trying to mask how difficult it was to manage your trauma symptoms in the workplace. Whatever your reason for really making that decision that it would be better to leave and to create my own business than to stay here and to have to deal with what I'm continuing to deal with, and it's not getting any better. I want you to know that entrepreneurship is a protective decision, not just a professional decision. Sometimes we think that if we can just escape, if we can move away from the challenges that we're facing in the workplace, things will be better. And maybe sometimes it does get better for a little while. And sometimes you need to take some time to really recover from a toxic work environment or nervous system dysregulation, right? We need to do that when we're in a bad space. But it also can be a survival strategy. It's the survival strategy of flee. If we can just get away from it, if we can just flee it, if we can just move away from it, things will be better. And that's what we tell ourselves when we start a business, right? But once you've made that move to start your business, sometimes we have this aha moment where we say, oh, shoot, I am now responsible for making sure that I can make a living. And it causes this almost panic or this urgency of, I got to go. We got to move fast. We got to make money. And that can be really dysregulating for trauma survivors. When you have that aha moment and you realize that there's 10,000 things that you need to do in order to set up your business before you can get a paycheck, that creates a sense of urgency, which can in itself become triggering for trauma survivors. Let me define urgency because I think it's really important. Urgency relates to something that's important, that requires swift action. That's what urgency means. And it's understandable that there's a sense of urgency as it relates to bringing in an income so you can support your family and pay your bills and all the things. But rushing to build something from nothing comes with an inherent sense of danger, which impacts your sense of safety and your autonomy that you were seeking in the first place. This isn't a mindset problem. It's a structural tension. It's the tension between what I need to do to survive and the pace that I can move at from my nervous system. When I talk to trauma survivors who've chosen to leave their full-time jobs to go into entrepreneurship, I want to support their decision. But I also want them to go into it with their eyes wide open about some challenges that they can face that are inherent to being a trauma survivor and starting a business. I don't want them to be surprised by the hardship that comes through the work of setting this up. I want them to know, hey, this is going to be great. You're going to be great at it, but also there's going to be some things that I don't want you to be surprised by when they come up. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but I'm just trying to prepare folks for what is ahead of them so that they can be aware of it and acknowledge, okay, but I don't want you to believe or think that you are not capable of doing this because you're ultimately capable of doing this. I want you to know that starting a business is hard. But so is surviving trauma. And you've already survived that. You've proven that you have the courage, the bravery, the persistence, the tenacity, the relentlessness required to be a successful entrepreneur. You already have that. These are the skills that you already have that are needed in order to build a successful business, and you already have them. These are tools in your toolbox that you will use often in setting up your business. So I'm not saying you can't be a successful business owner because you've experienced trauma. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are specific challenges related to being a trauma survivor and starting a business. And I want to talk about that because I want you to be prepared for when these challenges come up. I want you to know and to just say, hey, I get that. Cyndi told me that was going to happen. Okay, here's my strategy for that. I want you to be prepared for how to handle that so that you continue to move forward. And one of those things that we want to talk about here is being able to move at the speed of your nervous system. Because when you're setting up your business, there is that sense of urgency that you need money to survive, which you do, okay? There's no doubt about it. Whether you're drawing off of your savings, maybe you got a business loan to be able to start off with, or maybe you're drawing off your retirement benefits, however it is that you've gotten the money to start this business or to leave your full-time job. There is a pressure, there's an urgency to build this so that you can start bringing in that first paycheck. There is an urgency that will come. When you're a trauma survivor building a business, you have a nervous system that has been informed by trauma. And what that might look like for you is maybe everything seems dangerous. You may have a limited window of tolerance, meaning you may have a limited space that represents your optimal functioning. You may have challenges with regulation. You may have a limited capacity to learn because you have so many other things that are going on that are causing dysregulation, right? And when you're dysregulated, it's impossible to learn new things. It's impossible to try new things. Every new thing may seem overwhelming to you. And that is normal. That's normal for us as trauma survivors. So I just want you to be aware of that, okay? You're moving into a new thing. It's new and exciting, but also there's this sense of urgency. So your nervous system has a job to do. Your nervous system's job is to keep you safe, and it's going to do that. When that sense of urgency causes you to move faster than your nervous system can manage, it will cause you to move out of your window of tolerance into either hyperarousal, where you're moving all over the place and you can't seem to get things done, or hypoarousal, where your whole nervous system might shut down and you may not be able to get out of bed in the morning, or you have no energy. You might experience decision paralysis. You might experience procrastination on visibility tasks. You might have physical symptoms like anxiety before sales calls because it's a life and death situation, which it feels like at the time. You might crash after a productive sprint, and it might take you days or weeks to recover from that. These are things that may happen or may be happening to you already. I'm just trying to build your awareness of the things that you might experience if you have a nervous system that is informed by trauma. The challenge here is to recognize that there is a difference between discomfort related to growth and dysregulation that signals us to stop. There's a difference between them. When you're being stretched and you're growing, it can be uncomfortable. And as Dr. Becky Kennedy says, you're in the learning zone, and everything in the learning zone is uncomfortable. And the more you can tolerate the discomfort of being in the learning zone, the more you'll learn. And this is a big learning opportunity for you. You're going into something new. You have to learn everything from scratch if you've never been an entrepreneur before. Everything is new for you. You may not know all the things. You might still be trying to figure it all out. That's a lot. That's a lot on your nervous system all at one time. So just notice that and recognize, hey, there's a lot that needs to be done. But also, we're going to move at a pace that is right for us. Sometimes when we try to move too fast, we set ourselves back. And then we have to take a break or we have to recover, and it takes a long time. But there's one thing that I've learned back in the day when I was much younger and much thinner. I used to participate in triathlons. Notice I said participate and not compete, right? So I participated as an Athena athlete, which means that I had a much larger body type than maybe some of the other triathletes that were there. And I was still required to run the same course, but I had extra weight that I had to carry. It makes sense that I might be moving a little bit slower than folks that didn't have to carry the weight, right? And so what I had to learn as a result of that my body had limitations because of the weight that I carried, right? And it required me to learn to pace myself, because when I tried to keep up with the people that didn't have to carry the same weight that I did, I couldn't finish the race. There was no way for me to finish the race because I would burn through all of my energy. I would burn through all of the fuel that you consume during a race. I would burn through all that just trying to keep up with something that I couldn't manage. I couldn't manage the pace that they were running because I had weight that they didn't have. So I had to be really wise about when I can push things and when I needed to hold back. And it was a push and a pull and a wisdom issue about when I can move fast. Hey, you know what? As a plus size athlete, you can get a lot of momentum going when you're going downhill. And there's no work involved. You just let the weight take over and you can move downhill pretty fast. But when you're going uphill, that causes you to use calories that other folks don't have to use when they're going uphill because they don't have the weight behind them and they don't have to carry that weight and use the extra energy in order to push that load uphill. That makes sense to you. This is the same thing. This analogy is the same. When you're a trauma survivor, you carry extra weight. You carry the weight of your past on your back while you're trying to do this thing that other people do and they don't have that weight. And so you have to pace yourself. You have to move at the speed of your nervous system so that you can continue to move forward and finish the race. Participating in this race is not about how fast you can get done, because if you don't complete the race, then you haven't won. The goal is to complete the race. The goal is to set up your business and to be able to make money. It's not to move as fast as you can and not be able to support it. That is the yin and the yang of what you're into right now. And hopefully that analogy made sense to you. You don't want to push too fast because you can't sustain it. But also you don't want to move too slow and then have extra energy at the end, right? You want to move at a pace that you can maintain for the whole race. And you need endurance. You need persistence. You need tenacity. You need all the things that you have gained as a trauma survivor just by surviving. You already had that. Let's say, for example, you take some training on how to start your business, which when you don't know what you're doing is wise, right? But also, many of these programs that teach you how to start your business are not trauma informed. They don't account for the limitations of your nervous system. They don't account for all the other things that you are managing and all the rest of the areas that you're using your capacity in, like healing, for example, or trying to manage your trauma symptoms, or trying to manage your dysregulation. They don't account for that. That takes energy too, and they don't account for that, right? So I want you to be aware of that. So when they are teaching you things, they have you moving at a pace where it is beneficial for those people who don't carry the weight of that. They're moving you at a very quick pace. Maybe it's an 8-week course. Maybe it's a 12-week course. But they're moving you at a pace that is exhausting for trauma survivors who are walking around with this 100-pound back from their past. They're not taking into consideration that weight that you're carrying. You cannot, as a trauma survivor, sustain that pace. I have been through multiple training programs. I've been through training programs about how to start your business. I've been through training programs about how to set up your email marketing. I've been through programs about how to do courses and how to set up a membership program and how to do launches. I've done a lot of different courses just trying to learn what it is that I need to do to set up my business and to be successful. They were big programs, and none of them were trauma-informed. None of them took into account what I was carrying as a trauma survivor, or what the capacity of my nervous system was, or what my window of tolerance was for getting all those things done. Sometimes I went through those programs and I felt like I failed because I couldn't keep up. And that's the same with triathlons. You can think, I'm failing because I'm not keeping up from them. But guess what? You're not competing against them. You're competing against those who are in the same category as you are. You're competing against those who have some of the same challenges that you have. That's your category that you're in, right? And so you need to do things differently in order to be successful. That's what I want to challenge you to do, is to really think about how you need to move differently, the pace that you need to move at, the priorities that you need to set, or the things that you need to eliminate in order to be successful. There are certain things that I do in my business where I will eliminate a required task for a launch because I don't have the capacity in my nervous system when I'm launching a new program to do the extra thing. And so I make a strategic decision. I have a choice. Choice is very important to us, right? I have a choice that I can make to defer that activity to maybe the next launch. Maybe I'll have more capacity to do it in the next launch because I don't have to build all of the deliverables for this initial launch. I can make the decision based upon the capacity of my nervous system. For us as trauma survivors, learning how to move at the pace of our own nervous system, not anybody else's, our own nervous systems, is a critical skill for success for us as business owners. We have to learn how to pay attention to when we notice. Noticing is a really big skill. When we can notice, when we're starting to move outside of our window of tolerance, outside of that window of excellence, where we're at our best, when we start creeping up towards hyper arousal, we start to have this overwhelming anxiety. And we start to question ourselves. We start to question our abilities to be able to do this. But then if you're on the bottom end, too, if you're over capacity, and this has hit me so many times I cannot even tell you. When I think, I can do that, no problem. And I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. And I don't take into account how overcommitted I am to do it. I get overwhelmed and I shut down, and then I don't do any of it. And that happens. You have this sweet spot called the window of tolerance. Learning how to recognize when you're on the edges of that window of tolerance is a really important and critical skill for trauma survivors, especially when they're going into business, because you're the only one doing the thing. Unless you've hired somebody to help you do the things and you have that ability to pay somebody to do it, which most new entrepreneurs don't have, you're the one that has to do all the things. You're the one that has to make all the decisions. This brings up that sense of urgency. Man, I have a whole list of things that need to get done in order to just be able to get a paycheck, maybe get a paycheck. And at the beginning, when you're just building your skills, you're building your reputation, it may not be a big paycheck. It may not even pay all your bills. And so it creates a sense of urgency. For some of us as trauma survivors, urgency is already a trigger. It's already a trigger. Let's think about this way. When you were in the workplace, how did you react when you had an impending deadline and you're not ready? I have a part that tells me, you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not ready, you're not ready. All the time, on repeat. Hey, we have this urgent deadline. It's this date. And you're not ready. What does that do inside of you? Does it set off alarm bells? Does it set off extra anxiety? It does for me. And when I have so much anxiety that I can't think straight, that means I'm outside my window of tolerance. So this urgency to get your business set up is a stressor, and it puts pressure on your nervous system. And when your business is your exit strategy, the pressure to make it work fast can feel like life or death. It can feel like survival. So you're in survival mode. And then what happens is when we're in survival mode, our frontal cortex goes offline. Isn't that great? We lose the ability to think straight. We lose the ability to strategize. We lose the ability to prioritize. We lose the ability to think straight when we're not regulated, when we're in survival strategy, when we're hyper aroused or hypo aroused. We lose the ability for critical decision making. Now, this might show up in our business as underpricing out of fear, not getting the proper value that we bring to the table. It might show up as overcommitting to clients because you feel like you got to do everything, even when you know you're over capacity. It might show up as avoiding sales calls because they feel threatening to you. It might be launching your business before you're ready, or not launching your business when you are ready because you're afraid of what could happen. This is something that you can mindfully manage. You can mindfully manage this. It's not something that's impossible to overcome, and I want you to hear that. You may discover a whole new set of triggers as an entrepreneur that you didn't experience when you were a worker in the workplace. And that's okay. These are just new triggers that you add to your workplace trigger tracker. And then you come up with strategies for managing and handling them. But you already have proven that you have the skills to do that. And so it just becomes business as usual for a trauma survivor. But be aware that you may experience new triggers, or that these triggers might be different than what you experienced in the workplace, and there will be some new ones. For me, urgency is a trigger, but also showing up in public, showing up on social media is a trigger for me. Being seen can be a trigger, or having to set a value for your service, seeing yourself as valuable could be a trigger. How many times do trauma survivors have challenges with knowing what their worth is financially? Yikes. That can also be a trigger, right? But these are not triggers that you're not prepared to handle. These are not triggers that you don't have the skill to manage and handle. So I want you to hear that. So now that we've talked about all that, how do you build a business that allows for the tension between wanting to get it built quickly so that you can bring in a paycheck and also staying within the limits of your nervous system capacity? If you've been following me for any length of time, you will know one of the things that I always say is that the work develops the worker. As an entrepreneur, this is the work. You don't have to choose between healing and being a business owner, because being a business owner and dealing with all the things that come up as a business owner is the healing work. It is the healing work. You're working through the challenges that you have to face. You're overcoming the triggers. You're creating the strategies for dealing with the triggers when they come up. You're processing them because you're healing as you're building, right? It's not either or, it's both and. I want to provide you some trauma-informed tips for entrepreneurship. Number one is set reasonable timeline expectations based on your nervous system's capacity. Number two, work within your zone of excellence. When are the times when you are at your best? Is it in the morning? Is it in the evening? When are those times when you're at your best, at your sharpest, when you're the most regulated during the day? Work within those times, your zone of excellence, I call it. Number three, use revenue models that are sustainable for you. For me, as an example, having back-to-back individual coaching sessions without a break is not sustainable for me. I can't do it. And so that's not sustainable. Maybe you have group coaching sessions. So whatever it is, have a revenue model that you can sustain. Number four, develop offers that you can consistently deliver on even if you're having a bad day. Number five, establish support structures for regulation and business guidance. Have mentors. Have business people that you can join. Maybe you join a mastermind. Maybe it's a free mastermind of other business owners that have some of the same challenges that you can bounce things off of or ask questions to. Have that support structure to help you be successful. I want to share with you a powerful reframe. Moving at the pace of your nervous system isn't moving too slowly. It is a strategic decision that helps you keep moving forward consistently. So if you are on this exciting journey of building your own business and things seem challenging, it can be helpful to remind yourself of your why. Why did you decide to do this? It all comes down to you believed in yourself. At some point, you believed in yourself that you were capable of doing things better for yourself, that you could make it work better and differently for yourself. And I want you to hold on to that belief, especially during the tough times, because there will be tough times. But I want you to hold on to that tenaciously. Don't ever let that belief go, the belief that I can do it. I want you to hold on to that. Tell yourself, I've got this, even if you don't feel like it. I have a sticky note on the bottom of my monitor. It tells me, you've got this. Use sticky notes, use hang-ups to remind yourself of truth during hard times. You're going to need it. But you can do this. You've got this. Let me ask you a question. Where in your business right now are you pushing beyond the pace and capacity of your nervous system? And what is it costing you? If you're in the thick of it right now, trying to build something real while your nervous system is doing its best to protect you, I'd love to talk to you. A discovery call is a no-pressure conversation about where you are and what support might actually help. To schedule a discovery call, the link is in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us for your Trauma-Wise Career Guide. I'll see you next time. You're not walking this path alone. Every step you take toward a trauma-wise career is an act of courage, and I'm here cheering you on. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with another survivor who needs to hear this message. Together, we're rewriting the rules of career success. Keep rising, keep healing, keep building.